I don't know where to begin, except by saying, I wasn't always like this. Before the nightmares, before the whispers started echoing through my apartment walls at night, I was just another guy heartbroken and foolish enough to believe love could be forced. Summoned, even. Her name was Nita. We met during university in Cairo. Both of us studying literature, both of us obsessed with old texts and forgotten languages. She was quiet, always sketching in her notebook. I was drawn to her like a moth to flame, but while I burned to get closer, she always kept her distance. And then, just like that, she vanished. No goodbye, no warning, just silence. One day her apartment was full of her weird little artifacts and books in Persian and Arabic. Next day, empty. No one knew where she went. No forwarding address. No family contacts. Nothing. But she left something behind. The landlord, who knew I was close to her, handed me a small black leather-bound journal that had been tucked behind her dresser. Its cover was cracked and ancient. With a crescent-shaped clasp I had to pry open with a screwdriver. It smelled like dried herbs and dust and something else. Something metallic like old blood. There was no title, no author, just strange diagrams, ink symbols I didn't recognize, and scattered Arabic phrases that even my decent reading skills struggled to decipher. But there were drawings. One of a mirror, one of a bowl filled with red petals and what looked like teeth. Another showed a heart, split down the middle, tied together with black thread. And at the very end, a page written in red. To force love, summon what is unseen. I should have stopped there, but heartbreak makes you do stupid things, dangerous things.
The first night I read from the journal, I didn't really believe anything would happen. I sat in my apartment, lights off, candles burning like the pages instructed. I placed a mirror in front of me, just a plain handheld one from the pharmacy. I traced the sigil onto its back with red marker, because obviously I wasn't going to use blood. I laughed nervously at myself. I felt ridiculous, alone in a room, chanting words from a dead dialect of Arabic to a smudged mirror. But a part of me, deep down, believed Nita had used this, that maybe she had tried the ritual, and that's why she disappeared. What if it worked? The instructions said to say the name of the one you desire 7 times. So I did, quietly. Her name echoed off the walls like a prayer no god should hear. Nita, Nita, Nita. The air in the room shifted. You know that feeling when your ears pop, and it's like all the sound in the room gets sucked out for a moment? That's what it felt like. My candle flames shivered, and for half a second, I thought I saw something behind me in the mirror. Just a flicker, a blur, like smoke curling upward. I turned. Nothing. But the mirror stayed fogged over, even though the air was cool and dry. I should have ended it there. Burned the book. Thrown the mirror away. Blocked her memory out of my mind forever. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a single word written in the condensation on my mirror's glass. Continue. The days that followed were strange. I would find my front door unlocked when I was sure I had locked it. My phone would ring once in the middle of the night, and the caller ID would say no number. Every time I picked up, silence. But it wasn't random silence, it was breathing. Slow, steady breathing, like someone lying next to me on a pillow, listening. One night, I caught my own reflection moving just a split second out of sync. My arm moved, and the reflection lagged behind, blinking long after I did. I started hearing her voice too. It wasn't hallucination. I know what my mind sounds like when it's trying to trick me. This was different. It was her, Nita's exact voice, whispering my name while I brushed my teeth, or softly calling from behind the bathroom door. But every time I turned, nothing. I flipped back through the journal, desperate, and I found a new page, one that hadn't been there before. It looked newer than the rest, written in cleaner ink. More instructions, more drawings, a heart in a jar, a key with no door, a name written backward, upside down, then scratched out. Below it, another phrase in red. There is no return after the summoning. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up on my couch, flipping through forums, subreddits, and old web pages about jinns. I learned about Karen, the twin spirits that accompany us, the ones who can mimic voices and thoughts. I read about jinns offering help in love and revenge, but always for a price. They don't serve out of kindness. They serve because they're bound. And if you bind them wrong, they don't forgive. That next morning, I found another change in the journal, a symbol I hadn't seen before. It was scrawled in thick black ink over a drawing of a heart. And next to it, in my handwriting, my own handwriting, were the words, "She's close, but you have to give more." I didn't write that. I swear to God I didn't, but I believed it, because that night, Nita came back. She didn't knock. She didn't speak. I just turned around, and there she was, standing in the hallway of my apartment, pale as moonlight, her eyes wide and empty like fogged glass. And then she whispered, "You called me." She stood in the hallway like she had never left. Same long black hair, same oversized sweater, same scent, jasmine and old paper, but her eyes were wrong. Nita used to have the kind of eyes you fall into, curious, searching, human. The eyes staring back at me now were dull, pale, unfocused, like looking at someone underwater. I didn't speak at first. I just stood there, frozen. Was I dreaming? Had I finally snapped from loneliness and obsession? "Nita?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. She didn't blink, just tilted her head slowly, like a cat trying to understand something. "You called me," she repeated. Her voice sounded hollow, like it came from a long tunnel. "You opened the way." Goosebumps broke across my arms. She walked toward me, slow, barefoot, silent, and the air around her felt colder with each step. Not air-conditioned cold, not winter breeze cold. This was hospital basement cold. She stood right in front of me, inches away, looking into my eyes like she was trying to see something behind them. I reached out. My hand hovered near hers, and she flinched, not like someone startled, but like she was resisting, like touching me would hurt her. "Where did you go?" I asked. Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, and then stopped. Then she turned around, walked past me, and went straight into my bedroom. No questions, no greeting, like she had never left, like the place still remembered her. I followed, heart pounding. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the mirror above my dresser. I hadn't moved it since the ritual. When I spoke again, my voice cracked. "Are you really Nita?" Silence. Then she whispered, "Not entirely." That night I couldn't sleep. I didn't even try. I just watched her. She didn't eat, didn't drink, just sat silently, staring into the mirror. I asked her questions. Where she had been, why she disappeared, what she meant by not entirely. All I got were half answers. The mirror showed me things. I was lost between places. There's still something watching. Sometimes she'd speak in whispers, sentences I couldn't catch. Other times, she'd hum, soft melodies that felt familiar and terrifying all at once, like a lullaby sung at a funeral. At 3:07 a.m., I caught her reflection blinking. When she didn't, that was when I knew for sure whatever came back in her form wasn't entirely her. The next morning, I found the journal on my kitchen table, open to a new page. It hadn't been there the night before. I was certain. This time, the page had instructions written in my handwriting again, though I hadn't touched a pen. Stage 2, binding. Offer the memory. Speak her truth into the mirror. She cannot stay without it. Below that, a warning. The Jinn listens. Even now. I turned around slowly. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, still in the same sweater, still barefoot. "You read more," she said. Not a question, a statement, almost disappointed. "What's going on, Nita?" What did I call? "What are you?" I asked. Her gaze dropped to the floor. "I wasn't supposed to come back," she whispered. That night, I followed the new instructions. Not because I trusted them, but because I didn't know what else to do. The journal said to speak a memory into the mirror. A memory of her. One that mattered. So I sat in front of the mirror again, just like before. Candlelight. Silence. The journal opened beside me. Nita stood behind me, her reflection hovering in the corner of the glass. I spoke aloud. I remember the day we met. You were sketching that weird gargoyle statue outside the library. You didn't even notice me at first. She said nothing. I sat next to you, tried to talk. You ignored me for 10 minutes, and when you finally looked at me, the first thing you said was, "You have the kind of face people lie to." I laughed softly, bitterly. I thought you were messing with me, but you weren't. You always saw through people. Even me. The mirror fogged over slowly, and then, for the first time, her reflection smiled. It was faint, almost human. The next morning, she was gone. No sign she had ever been there. But the journal had changed again. A new entry. This time, the handwriting wasn't mine. It was jagged, black, angular, like claw marks on a page. The tether is formed. She is one of us now. The final offering will be yours. There was a symbol at the bottom, one I hadn't seen before, a broken heart with an eye in the center. It pulsed on the page, like it had been burned in rather than drawn. And then I heard it, a whisper, not from the mirror, not from the hallway, from inside my own head. You brought her back. Now you must pay the price. That night I woke up to scratching, not from the walls, from inside the mirror, soft at first, then louder, faster, like nails clawing at glass from the other side. I stood up and walked to it, trembling. There was nothing but my own pale reflection. And then, behind me, a second face appeared, Nita's, but her mouth was wide open, eyes pure black, skin stretched tight like rotting leather, and in her voice, layered with something deeper, something inhuman, I heard, "Let me in fully." I didn't sleep again after that. I sat in the corner of my room, lights on, mirror covered with a sheet, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. But the scratches didn't stop. Even with the mirror wrapped and hidden in my closet, I still heard them, soft at first, then frantic, like something was trapped, clawing harder, angrier. Every minute it stayed out. Every few hours, I'd hear her voice behind the closet door. "Let me in. I'm cold." It wasn't Nita anymore. The way it spoke her name, used her face, wore her voice. It was like watching a puppet pulled by invisible strings. And the journal kept changing. More symbols, more demands. The newest page was darker, ink like dried blood, smeared as if written in a panic. To complete the union, the host must give something living, a piece of their bloodline, a bond that cannot be faked. The Jinn will not stay without flesh to anchor. I read that over and over, confused, disgusted. Bloodline? Did it mean a family member? A pet? I didn't have anyone. I was an only child. My parents were long gone. No siblings, no kids, no close cousins. I had no one, but the journal didn't care. It even listed examples. A brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a lover. If none remain, then the summoner becomes the tether. I dropped the book. That was the first moment I truly felt fear. Not the creepy kind, not the whisper in the dark kind. The kind of fear that makes your body cold, that tells you you've gone too far to ever go back. That night, I decided to destroy it all. I gathered everything, the journal, the mirror, the candles, and took them outside to the alley behind my building. I poured lighter fluid on the pile and lit a match. The flame caught fast. Pages curled, smoke rose, and for a second I felt relief, like I'd finally done something right. But then I heard it, a low hiss, not from the fire but from inside my head. And then the flames exploded upward in a sharp gust. Too high, too hot, and blew backward, throwing me against the wall. The fire didn't spread. It just vanished, gone. But the items, untouched. Not a single page burned. Not a single crack in the mirror. It was like the fire hadn't touched them at all. When I went back inside, the lights in my apartment flickered. And on the bathroom mirror, my real one, the one above the sink, there were words written in the fog, though I hadn't showered. "You are the bond now. You brought me halfway. Let me in, or stay hollow. And then I saw her again. Nita. Not in the hallway this time. Not standing like before, but sitting on my bed. Head tilted, body limp, eyes staring straight ahead, unblinking. I didn't speak. Couldn't. She smiled faintly and raised her hand. In her palm, something rested. It was a small bundle wrapped in string. Red, knotted tightly, oozing slightly. I didn't want to touch it. My instincts screamed at me to run. But my body didn't move. I took it from her. And the moment it touched my hand, I saw it in a flash. Like a memory that wasn't mine. Her, performing the ritual in a circle of salt. Cutting her palm. Saying my name. Crying as the wind howled around her. But something had gone wrong. Something had answered. But it didn't give her love. Took her. And now, I was the one pulling her halfway back. The bundle unwrapped in my hand. Almost on its own. Inside was a tooth. My tooth. The one I'd had extracted a year ago. How had she gotten it? How did it get it? The journal had said, a bond that cannot be faked. They needed a part of me. Something from my body. Something old and connected. And now they had it. I ran to the sink and dropped the tooth down the drain. Turned on the garbage disposal. Heard the crunch. But when I looked up, Nita was standing in the mirror. Only the mirror. Not in the room behind me. And she was smiling. But not like herself. The smile was too wide. Too long. Too wrong. And then she whispered, "We already took more than that." I stepped back. My legs hit the tub. I almost fell. And then I noticed something I hadn't before. A thin line, almost invisible, running across my chest. Under my shirt. I lifted the fabric. There it was. A scar. A long, neat stitch from my sternum to just below my ribcage. No pain. No blood. But it was real. I touched it. Pressed down. Nothing. But the moment I did, I heard breathing. From inside me. I don't know how I slept that night. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just passed out. But in the dream, if it was a dream, I saw her again. Standing in a desert. Wind swirling around her. Hair whipping like ink in water. She held her hands out, and between them was a heart. Still beating. And I knew. It was mine. She looked at me and said, "You loved me enough to summon a Jinn. Now love me enough to finish what you started." When I woke up, there was blood on my pillow, and the journal was open again. This time it said, "One more offering, then you may join her, or you may replace her." I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I kept the windows shut. I shoved towels under the door. I turned every mirror to face the wall, even the ones on my phone and laptop. But no matter what I did, she stayed. I'd see Nita standing in the reflection of my microwave, or watching from the darkened screen of my turned-off TV. Always the same blank stare. Always waiting. And the journal wouldn't stop changing. Every time I blinked, another page would fill itself in. Symbols. Phrases in Arabic I couldn't fully translate. Diagrams of hearts split open. Figures suspended by black cords. Mirrors drawn in cracked lines. And always that phrase again. You summoned her halfway. Now choose. Join or replace. On the third night, I started to hear her voice again. But this time it wasn't whispering from behind mirrors. Came from my phone. I hadn't used it in days. I'd thrown it under my bed to avoid any reflective surfaces. But now it buzzed with a single incoming audio message from an unknown number. Just 1 second long. When I played it, my blood ran cold. It was her voice, but not her words. All she said was, "It's not me." Played it again. Same voice, same tremble, same 3 chilling words. "It's not me." The next page of the journal appeared right after that. No symbols, no drawings, just a warning, written in what looked like charcoal smears. "She's trapped. The voice you follow is not the one you love. The Jinn now wears her face. To free her, return what was taken." I didn't understand what return what was taken meant. Her soul? Her heart? My sanity? Whatever it was, I had no idea how to give it back. So I went back to the only place I could think of, her old apartment, the place she vanished from. It had been abandoned for months, dust everywhere, windows boarded, but I still had the spare key from when we used to trade books and notes. When I stepped inside, it was like walking into the past. Everything was still there. The tiny wooden desk where she used to sketch, her collection of dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, the same scent, faint jasmine, burned sage, and something else beneath it, something metallic. And on her bed, the original journal, a twin to the one I had, same black leather, same crescent clasp, but this one was older. Its pages were yellowed, wrinkled. There were no instructions, just entries, notes in her handwriting, personal, panicked. Entry 1. I only wanted him to love me back. The ritual said the mirror would show him what he refused to see. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Entry 4. Something came instead. Not him, not love. A shadow that whispered my name in voices that weren't his. I think I've opened the wrong gate. Entry 7. It wants to stay. I can't make it leave. Every time I try, it says, "You called me. Now I am yours." Final entry. I'm going into the mirror. I think that's where it's keeping the real me. If anyone finds this, tell him I didn't mean for any of this. I dropped the book. It landed with a soft thud, and then the floorboards beneath it cracked. A small panel in the wooden floor popped loose. Curious, I pulled it up. Underneath was a space barely big enough to hide a shoebox. But inside was something far more disturbing. A mirror, oval-shaped. The surface was darkened, almost black, and it pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. As I stared into it, something deep in my stomach twisted, like I was falling into it. And then her voice returned, not from around me, from inside the mirror. "Help me, please." It was her voice, the real one, shaky, human, full of terror. I reached toward it, and the surface rippled like water. But the moment my fingertips touched it, something cold wrapped around my wrist. Not a hand, not a human hand. It was long, thin, gray, with too many joints. It yanked my hand into the glass, and I saw her, Nita, floating in a dark space, her arms bound by invisible threads, mouth sewn shut, eyes wide in horror. And next to her, the Jinn. Its form constantly shifted, sometimes wearing her face, sometimes mine, sometimes neither. It turned toward me with a smile that split its face in half. "She gave herself for you. Now return the favor." I tore my hand back. The mirror dropped, cracking the floor. I backed away, heart racing, skin ice cold where it had touched me. There was no doubt now. She had summoned it first. But it didn't give her love. It gave her possession. And I was doing the same thing, just in reverse. When I got back home, every mirror in the apartment had shattered. Even the dark TV screen was cracked, spiderwebbed from the inside. And on my bedroom wall, written in long red strokes, were the words, "Join her, or take her place. Choose, now." I didn't know what to do. If I chose to join her, would that mean death? If I chose to take her place, would I be offering myself to the Jinn willingly? I sat down on the floor, shaking. Then I looked at the journal one last time. A new message had appeared, one I wasn't expecting. "There is one more way, but it requires a sacrifice not of blood, but of truth." I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at that final line in the journal. A sacrifice not of blood, but of truth. What did it mean? Truth of what? About me? About Nita? About what I had done? I flipped through the older pages again, my hands trembling, hoping for a clue. And then I saw it. Something I had ignored the first time. A phrase scribbled faintly in the corner of one of the earliest pages. "The Jinn feeds on lies we tell ourselves." Suddenly, it made sense. This wasn't just about rituals. It wasn't about spells or offerings or even love. It was about why I did it. Why I called to something I didn't understand. Why I read the incantations, lit the candles, and whispered her name 7 times into a mirror. It wasn't love. It was control. That realization hit me harder than I expected. The truth was, I didn't summon the Jinn because I loved her. I summoned it because I couldn't accept that she didn't love me back. I called her quiet, mysterious, unreachable. But deep down, I was angry. Not at her, at the fact that she could leave, and I had to live with the silence. And that's what the Jinn had latched onto. That selfish, ugly need beneath my desperation. It didn't care about rituals or ancient texts. It wanted me to face the one thing I had buried. I summoned her spirit, not to reunite us, but to possess her. That night, the mirror pulsed again. Even though I had buried it in a box beneath the kitchen sink and duct taped it shut, I could feel it. The pressure in the apartment was heavier, like the walls were closing in, like something was breathing with me, every inhale, every exhale, just half a second behind. I stood in front of the mirror, unwrapped it, and this time, I didn't light any candles. No rituals, no journal, just me and the truth. "Nita," I said aloud, voice shaking. "I'm sorry." The mirror rippled, but her face didn't appear, so I kept talking. "I lied to myself. I said I wanted you back because I missed you, because I loved you. But the truth is, I didn't love you right. I wanted you to need me as much as I needed you, and when you didn't, I tried to change it." Tears slipped down my face. I didn't even notice at first. I tried to force the universe, to break the rules, to take your will away. That's not love. That's fear. The mirror began to darken. A low hum echoed through the room. Then the Jinn spoke. Not in words, but inside my head. 1,000 voices layered over one another, vibrating through my bones. Truth acknowledged. The offering accepted. Now choose. Free her or become her. For a moment, I didn't understand. Then, I did. To free her, I had to take her place. To undo what I had done, I had to go where she had gone, into the space between where the Jinn held her. That was the final step. And it didn't ask for blood. It asked for me. I walked into the bathroom, stared at my own reflection for what felt like forever. Then I whispered, "I choose her." The lights went out. Everything went black. And when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my apartment. I was standing in a space with no walls. Just darkness. Cold. Endless. In front of me, Nita. Floating. Her body barely lit by a pale, pulsing glow. She looked hollow, weightless, as if suspended in water. Her eyes met mine. For the first time, they were hers. Real. Human. She mouthed a word. "Why?" I stepped closer. "I came to set you free." Behind her, something stirred. It rose from the shadows like smoke becoming solid. The Jinn. Its form ever-changing. Sometimes wearing my face, sometimes hers, sometimes neither. It spoke in her voice. "You gave her to me once. Now give her back. Or stay." I turned toward her, reached out, touched her hand, and for a split second the world shifted. I felt the memories, her final day, the moment she first read the journal, the ritual, the scream that wasn't hers when the mirror swallowed her, the sound of my name echoing in the darkness when she realized I wasn't coming for her. Tears welled in her eyes. I squeezed her hand. "You don't belong here." Then I turned to the Jinn. "I do," screamed, not with sound, but with light. Blinding, white-hot. I dropped to my knees. Pain tore through my chest, my head, my thoughts. I felt every lie, every selfish act, every hidden desire I had ever tried to bury. And then silence. Nita was gone, and I was alone. In the reflection that surrounded me now, I saw myself. But it wasn't quite me. My eyes were too dark, my smile too still. I had become the anchor, the tether, the mirror. Back in the real world, someone else now held the journal. Someone lonely, desperate. I could feel them reading the words for the first time, whispering a name, lighting a candle. And I, now trapped within the glass, whispered back, "You called me." The next few days were a blur. I stopped sleeping. I couldn't risk it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, but not as I remembered her. Her face would start normal, soft, beautiful, that half smile she used to give me when she caught me staring. But then her skin would sag, droop, and stretch until it tore. Her mouth would elongate, her teeth growing jagged, and her eyes would go completely black, glossy, like the surface of a well filled with ink. When I was awake, I wasn't doing much better. My apartment had become a vortex of tension. Shadows didn't behave normally anymore. Light bulbs flickered. I'd leave a room and come back to find drawers open, items misplaced, candles lit that I didn't remember lighting. And worst of all, she kept showing up. Not her, not really, but the thing wearing her face. The first time it really spoke to me, was 3 nights after the ritual. I had dozed off against my will, slumped against the couch, TV still on. A horror movie playing, but nothing scarier than what was brewing in my own life. I jolted awake to the sound of the TV shutting off. I didn't do it. The remote was nowhere near me. In the silence, I felt it again, the heavy air, the pressure in my chest. Something was in the room. I slowly turned toward the hallway, and there she was, standing in the shadows between the kitchen and the living room. Half of her face was cloaked in darkness, the other illuminated by the hallway light. But what I saw made me feel like my heart physically dropped into my stomach. Her skin was pale, almost blue. Her hair hung wet, like she'd just emerged from a river. But it was her eyes that hit me hardest. Wide open, unblinking, pure black. "Why are you afraid?" she whispered. Her voice was layered, sounded like her, and something else underneath it. Low, guttural, not human. "I brought you back," I stammered. "Isn't that what you wanted?" She tilted her head slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. "I never asked for this," she said, stepping closer. Her feet didn't make a sound on the hardwood. "You begged me to fix things," I said, voice cracking. "I did what I had to do." She crouched just a few feet from me now, her face inches from mine. "You summoned something that was never meant to love you back." I froze. "Then what are you?" I whispered. "I'm everything you asked for," she said. "Just not how you imagined it." I blinked and she vanished, just gone, like she was never there. But the smell of her perfume lingered. Lavender, exactly the same one she wore, but now it was tinged with rot. I tried to research more about the Jinn I had summoned. I flipped through that old book like my life depended on it. Every passage seemed to blur, until I hit a line that made my skin crawl. When a Jinn accepts your offering, it may take the form of what you love, not to comfort you, but to bind you. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just back. She was here to stay, not as a spirit or a ghost, but as something inhuman that now wore her form to keep me tethered. And then it escalated. She didn't vanish anymore. She stayed. She walked around the apartment like she lived there, sat beside me on the couch, watched me eat, whispered things in my ear when I tried to sleep. Sometimes she smiled, but there was no soul behind it, just that blackness. I tried burning sage, salt, reciting prayers in languages I barely remembered. Nothing worked. She laughed when I tried. "Your little herbs and verses won't undo the pact," she said one night, her voice right beside my ear though I was alone in the kitchen. "You wanted eternal love. You have it now." I felt sick. I wanted her to leave, but every time I tried to leave myself, something would stop me. Doors would slam shut. Locks would jam. My phone wouldn't work. Lights would flicker violently until I backed down. I realized I hadn't stepped outside in days. And that's when the people in my life started to vanish. Friends stopped answering texts. My coworker called in once, then never again. I went online to search for their names. Nothing, like they'd been erased. Every connection to the outside world was breaking one by one. She wanted me all to herself, and I had no escape. One night, I found her sitting in the dark, in the corner of my room, knees tucked to her chest, head tilted. "You used to say you'd do anything to keep me," she said. "Now you've proven it." "I didn't mean like this," I whispered. But you did. She smiled wide. Too wide. And now we're bound. Forever. I ran to the bathroom, locked the door, hyperventilating. I stared into the mirror, gripping the sink so tightly my knuckles turned white. And then, behind me, her reflection. She wasn't standing there in reality, only in the mirror, and in that reflection her eyes were gone. Just two gaping holes leaking black smoke. I screamed, but no sound came out.